Okay, how to solve the magnification question. In the magnification question, there are 2 to 3 different types of magnification questions. What is the formula for magnification? Mia, just to remember it. Okay, Mia. Magnification is equals to I divided by A. A is, I is image length or image width, and A is actual length. Okay, now if you are provided with this diagram, now tell me, is this the original length of this diagram of the rose hip? This is a rose hip fruit. Now what do you think? Is this the actual length of the rose hip, or this is the enlarged image of the rose hip? So if we see on the diagram, this image is 2 times enlarged. Okay, as this image is 2 times enlarged, so this is not the actual length. Okay, so this is not the actual length of the image. Clear? Now if the examiner asks you to find out the actual length of the rosehip fruit, so how you are going to find out? We are going to use the formula AIM. A is equals to I times M. Okay, A means actual length. How we are going to find out the actual length? Because this is not the actual length of the rose hip. So we are going to use the formula A is equals to I times M. So how we are going to calculate the actual length? Actual length is equals to, we need to measure the length of the rose hip fruit. Now, the examiner is asking, wait, measure the widest part of the rose hip between X and X on figure 2.1 and record it below. Okay, between X and X. Now what do you think? Do we need to measure the length from X to X like this? Do we need to measure this blue line, or this red line? What do you think? Do we need to measure this blue line or red line? Yes.
The blue line.
The blue line or red line?
Blue.
What the examiner was asking? Measure the widest part of rose hip between X and X. So is this the region? Is this the region of rose hip? Is this part included in the rose hip?
No.
Is this part included in the rose hip? No. So we need to measure the red line. So it will get wrong if we are going to measure the length of the rose hip from by using this blue line that is from X to X. It will get wrong because the examiner is asking to measure the widest part of rose hip between X and X. Okay, so you need to measure the red line. So when we are going to measure the red line, so let's suppose the length of the measure of this red line is 5.1 centimeter. So we need to convert it into millimeter. How we are going to convert it into millimeter? By multiplying it with 10. So when we are going to multiply it with 10, it will be 51 millimeter. Okay, so what is the image length of rose hip? It is It is 51 times magnification. How much it is magnified? It is 2 times magnified. So the actual length is 51 times 2 is 102 millimeter. We need to write down the unit. If you forgot to mention the unit, then you will lose 1 mark. Always remember that for each and every calculation, you need to write down the unit. Is this clear? So the formula for measuring the actual length is aim. Just write down in this way. Just remember it in this way. Aim, and formula for measuring for calculating the magnification is Mia. Okay. Now, let's suppose if is this clear? How to calculate the actual length? Is this clear? Hello,
Yes, miss.
hello. Tell me, is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this was not the question. Now the question is, examiner was asking you to make a large drawing of the rose hip. Now this is the next question. Let's suppose if this is the next question. Make a large drawing of the rose hip shown in the box in figure 2.1. So this is figure 2.1. Label a supple on your drawing. We have already done that part in the drawing video. Okay. So this student has drawn this diagram of the rose hip and measure the widest part of the rose hip between x and x. So what do you think? Is this correct measurement which is taken by the student? Is this the correct measurement?
No.
No, this is not the correct measurement, so it will be penalized by the examiner. Okay. So for the measurement, it will be penalized. So let's suppose if the distance between x and between of the rose hip between x and x, let's suppose is 65 millimeter. Let's suppose. Okay. Or if it, let's suppose if it is 80 millimeter. So measure the widest part of the rose hip on your drawing and record it below. Let's suppose if it is 80 millimeter. So it should be of 8 centimeter. So we should multiply it with 10 in order to convert it into millimeter. What was the widest part of the rose hip between x and x? It was 50 millimeter. Okay. So was it the actual length of the rose hip? Was it the actual length of the rose hip?
No.
No.
No, it was not the actual length because it was 2 times magnified. Okay. So now when the examiner asks us to calculate the magnification of your drawing, that is, we need to calculate the magnification of this drawing. So how? What is the formula for it? Mia. M is equals to I upon A. So what is I? Image length is 80. Was it the actual length 50? It was not the actual length. So we need to convert it into actual length. How we are going to convert it into actual length? Divided by 50 times 2 in order to convert it into actual length. Is this clear or not?
Miss Claire.
Clear? So what should be our answer? 80 divided by 50 times 2 is equals to 3.2, and we need to write down x before this. What is the meaning of x? That means this image is, or your drawing is 3.2 times magnified or 3.2 times enlarged. Okay. Now always remember that for the magnification, the value should be up to 2 significant figures or up to 2 decimal places. For example, what does it mean? For example, if your answer is 13250, so how you are going to write? Let's suppose your magnification is 13250. If you are going to write it down in this way, you are going to lose 1 mark. So how should we write it? We should write it in the form of 2 significant figures. So what is the 2 significant figures for 13250? It will be Yes. 13000. Clear?
Yes.
Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's all for magnification. Okay, one more thing. Sometimes, let's suppose, if the allowance is not given in the question. So what does it mean? What does it mean? The original length or the actual length of this rows here, what was my question? For example, if the examiner is provided you with the same question and on the bottom of the diagram, no allowance is given. That is no multiplied by 2 or multiplied by 100 is written, right? So if no allowance is given, so what does it mean? This is the actual length of the rows here. So if the examiner asks you, is this clear? Is my question clear? Now, if the examiner asks you to calculate the magnification of your drawing, so now how you are going to calculate it? Mia again. So what was I? I was 80 divided by, what is A? A was 51. Should I divide it with any value? Should I divide it with any value if it is in fact the actual length?
No.
No. Is this clear? Because it is already an actual length, so we don't need to divide it with multiply it. I'm sorry, not divide. We don't need to multiply it with any allowance. If no allowance is given, we no need to multiply it with any allowance value. Okay. So magnification is equals to 80 divided by 51 would be yes. Yes. 80 divided by 51 is
1.5.
1.5. So it is in two significant figures, so we don't need to worry about it. Is this clear? So magnification is equal to times 1.5. So there are three different cases. Number one is Mia
Miss,
with, yes,
it's actually 1.6 if we round it.
1 point.
6.
Okay. So it's 1.6.
Miss, if
Okay.
it's
So number one is
1.56, won't we just keep it 1.5 because that's the standardized?
no, if it is 1.56, so we should round it off. We should write it as
Um,
1.6. Okay. So one is Mia, number two, and we should write times before it. Okay. And with all the values, for example, if the examiner asks you to measure the length, so we should write it as 80 millimeter. Don't write it without unit. 51 millimeter. Don't write it without unit. And how can we convert centimeter into millimeter? By multiplying it with 10. Now there is another value. How can we convert meter into micrometer? By multiplying it with 1000. Okay, this is 1,000 rule. Okay. Now, so if it is an actual length, then we don't need to multiply it with any value. But if it is not an actual length, so in fact we need to convert it into actual length by multiplying it with allowance, whatever allowance is given. Sometimes examiner, sometimes examiner can ask you about the actual length, so formula would be aim. Is this clear? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now stop recording. Stop recording.